Bună ziua, ascultați Let's Get Rocked cu Victor Rouă.
Good day, everyone. Here we are with we are on record with Luca Russo, an Italian musician and a fan of rock music, of some genres of rock music. Luca, how are you?
Hi, hello everyone. I'm fine, Victor. And what about you?
Well, I'm fine as well. We're going to kickstart the interview with the first question. More specifically, how do you actually perceive the musical instruments that you're playing on, the stringed musical that you're playing on, and what's your favorite stringed instrument?
Well, now I'm madly in love with this hybrid instrument introduced by Yamaha in the late 90s, which is called the guitarlele, which is basically a mix between a classical guitar and ukulele, and it really combines everything that I love about the guitar: its range and sonic possibility, with the portability, the lightweight, the small size of the ukulele. And so this is I basically I'm selling everything I had in favor of this instrument, because it's really addicting.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if you know about it, if you ever saw it, or
No, as a matter of fact I didn't, but I suppose it's not that different from a particular ukulele, right? So it doesn't have more than 4 strings. That's my guess.
It's a ukulele with 6 strings.
Oh, with 6 strings. So
yeah,
that's peculiar. So this is actually its peculiarity, right? The fact that it has 6 strings.
It has 6 strings, and it's also pretty affordable. If you want, I mean, it's
on Thomann, I suppose, right? The retail music shop, the international retail German-based music shop.
Yeah, to Thomann has many. They also make it from their own brand, which is not even a Harley brand. Benson is just Thomann with their different offerings of guitariles. That's for any kind of pocket, if someone is interested. But aside from that, I still enjoy playing electronic everything that's electronic, and so the interface with the synthesizers that I choose is the Ableton Push, which is a 8x8 grid of pads, and this basically allows you to trigger samples, or I mean, it's now a pretty popular instrument, so I don't think I need to describe it, but I basically have the same approach with it as the one that I have with the guitarlele. I use a particular tuning that is different from the standard tuning of the guitar, which is A, B, G, B, E.
So basically drop C, right? For sure.
Yeah, it's mine is in augmented fourths. So basically it's A, D sharp, A, D sharp, A, D sharp. So it's just 2 notes. It's basically the strings are repeated, and you have to learn less notes, less shapes. It's much more intuitive, and I suggest everyone that is playing 6-stringed instruments, and have the possibility to tune their instrument with like that. I mean, they should give it a try, because it really enables you to play in different ways, and to experiment different sounding voicings, especially in comparison with the typical blues and rock licks that may sound now too much tried or played out.
Yeah. How about
let's say.
How about the electric bass? I can distinctly recall from the time that we lived in the same student flat, and that you were playing on a Thunderbird, right?
Yeah, I sold it.
You sold it?
Yeah, I sold it because I bought the guitar with it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
But how was your experience in general when you played on bass? I mean, would you prefer bass over the guitar or the other way around, and why?
In the beginning, it looked like it has less notes on it, so it had an appearance of a simpler instrument. So I took it because I was younger and less experienced. So I said, two strings less. It must be easier. And it's also one of the. It has a pretty unusual look, so I went also for it. And I mean, besides that, it's also a passport to a band when you have a bass, because there are not many
basses
of us around.
Oh, okay, I see. This is very interesting.
Around, so it's also a choice if you wanna kickstart your career or your experience in a band to grab a bass, because there's not plenty of them around.
I see. That's very, very interesting. Now here comes the second question of the interview. How do you perceive the current state of the music industry nowadays, and where do you think it will go, and what will be your place presumably in it in the future?
I mean, it's a pretty broad landscape now. Because I mean, the consumers have consumers or listeners have the freedom to choose now. I'm seeing a lot of self productions going on. Also the famous artists, like I mean, there's an artist that I follow and I really esteem. I have a lot of esteem of it, which is called Clarence Clarity. He basically does everything on his headphones in his room without even putting his foot in a studio, and he is one of the best producers around. He sings, plays all the instrument ranges of his songs. Now he's experiencing a pretty a surge in listeners, because he made a pretty famous remix of Lady Gaga of a song by Lady Gaga, and he, as I said, he just basically worked from his own, and so everything that's gonna be a little bit not conventional, unusual, will come from this kind of settings. So an independent artist with his own means, producing his own stuff. I think that's where the most interesting production will come from.
Yeah, I see. That's very interesting. But what about your place, your particular place in the music business? Do you see yourself as a long-time professional artist? You're performing with a band of your own in Italy. What can you also tell us about that?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of supporting artist.
Okay.
From a band is called Cordamara.
Okay.
Maybe I'll always tell you more about it.
Yeah.
And I just play the synthesizers there.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna be it for me in terms of the music that is done in that is sold and promoted. And no, sorry, that's what that's the place that I'm gonna have.
Yeah.
In, I mean, this you can cut. Let's say now I'm gonna. Yeah. Basically, I don't see myself investing much more time in song-based music. Any kind of music that has the form of a song.
I see.
And more, I'm much more interested now in the fields of generative music. Basically, music that you code and you and basically it generates itself from an algorithm, and therefore its duration can be up to 1 week, 1 month, 1 year of music, and this is where I think I'm headed, especially because this will open up many new avenues for musicians and sound artists, because your role will not only be the one of a creator of records and artistic products, but you could also play a role in other areas of society, because you could sonify data, for example.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. So basically, you could take a stream of data that it's many streams of data that are unintelligible by people, and we don't have a way to sense and perceive them.
Yes.
I'm talking about data. They could be climate data. They could be data about a website. But our senses and our sensibilities are not really well tuned to it. If we see a number or maybe also even a graph, this will not stick with us, and will not be. I mean, since we're not, since we're basically, since our lives are really entangled with data. We saw it with the COVID. The data about the people that ill determined whether we could go out or not.
Yes.
And so to come back to music, musicians could play a role in it by sonifying all this data.
Yes.
And making it more easily, making them more easy to perceive.
Yes.
And so this is what I'm interested into now.
That sounds wonderful, really, and it's very, very exciting. I suppose that a lot of our audience is actually interested in these matters as well. Now, for the third question, I would like to ask you, what can you tell us about Kirin J. Callanan, a living legend in Australia, and Jimmy Barnes as well, and big enough?
I'm not sure if he's a living legend, because he's...
Well, for me, he is.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him right now, actually, since 2017.
I can tell you that he now started a record label.
Oh.
If you're interested as an artist.
It's not Weird Music, right? Weird Music was the label he was previously signed to.
He signed with Terrible Records, and his new label is called Worse.
Worse.
Records, which, I mean, I expect it to be worse than Terrible, but he already published a very interesting artist. It's called Hubert Lenoir.
Hubert Lenoir. Is he Flemish or French?
He's a Canadian artist.
Oh, Canadian. Okay.
His music is really fresh. I really like it.
Okay, cool. But would you regard? Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, sorry.
Would you regard Kirin as a poet?
As a poet?
Yeah, exactly. I would actually regard him as a poet because he has some very introspective lyrics in some of his songs. I mean, Landslide, and there was a particular song that I remember watching on listening on YouTube, but watching its music video, which was filmed at a subway station, but I just can't recall the moment.
Bravado.
Bravado, exactly.
Bravado.
That was all bravado, but he's not. So what? The thing is he actually a bravado sort of person in real life? I don't think so. And he doesn't have a style. We previously discussed the fact that he doesn't have a style, although you can sense parts of his music that you can label to perhaps new wave if you're very indulgent, or alternative rock. So it's still a mixture of several genres if you are to actually analyze things thoroughly. But he doesn't have a style. It's paradoxical.
He talked a lot about his album also recently. I mean, Bravado was a concept about him being shot in a concert and losing his mind.
Yeah.
Starting to call himself like the dog instead of Kirin Gallagher.
Why the dog? Why do you think he called himself as such?
The dog. I mean, he planned to split his album, where half of the songs would be, I mean, full of bravado and
exactly
bombastic.
Yeah.
And the other half would be the more intimate and true.
I see.
Self.
I see.
And the part in which the song Bravado that you talked about would have been in. But many, I mean, it was also fortunate for him to not play out this concept because it was a couple of weeks before the Bataclan shooting in France happened, because he was planning to stage this shoot in a concert in France, but he decided not to.
Yeah.
And
it was a wise decision.
Almost prophetically,
Yeah, I could add that it was a very wise decision on his behalf. What can you tell us about Big Enough? You know, the iconic music video with Jimmy Barnes, and what was the name of that English guy? The one you went at the concert in London to?
Alex Cameron. Yeah.
Alex Cameron, exactly.
Yes, he's also Australian.
Oh, he's also Australian. I thought he was English.
Yeah, in fact, the song was about the two contending the Australian audience.
Okay.
So that's where the lyric "This town might be big enough" comes from.
I see.
And
what about the iconic segment of Screams? What can you tell us about that one? Was it bravado?
Yeah. Sorry?
Was it bravado? Was it all bravado?
Of course. In fact, it was one of the last things that he recorded on the album. He sent just an email, a celebrative and full of praise email to Jimmy Barnes, and no answers came back for a while until he saw into his inbox a message with no object, with no
subject,
with anything, just filled with files and snippets of screens by him. And
that's his way of communicating, even in written language, I suppose, digitally.
They even speak. They didn't even speak. He just received those files and run to the studio, cut them, and pasted them.
But he still communicated.
Afterwards, they were both proud
of what they accomplished together. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many views did the music video manage to actually get in less than 1 year since its release? Or it was at the end of 2017. I remember it hit above 1 million.
It's
17 million?
60 million, 70 million.
17 million,
but
more
not
or less.
Counting all the memes that
okay.
came with it. So probably it reached a much wider audience.
Yeah. Well, that being said, now that we've talked about Kirin J. Callanan, well, actually, it's one tiny question I'm going to pose you about him as well, because I remember one of his songs that actually changed my life philosophy as well. Just as you said, it changed yours. Leave each day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one with the music video is absolutely humorous. It's very hilarious, but he's right as well, and I would say he is a poet. He's a poet. He's a realistic poet as well, right? I mean, the fridge magnet allegation, it's true. It's true, isn't it? It holds true.
He was kind of paradising, a kind of sort of American Las Vegas kind of worldview.
Exactly. On mainstream music, yeah.
Music and also the way of life.
Yeah.
And yes, so it's one of the songs where he really goes over the top, both lyrically and musically, with his high-pitched solo in the middle of the song.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we've scratched the surface a bit on Kirin J. Kalin for our audience to maybe get interested in listening to his music. And I would like to actually ask you on a great classic and a man of great renown, more specifically the one and only Frank Zappa. What was your favorite studio album that you listened from his discography, or what was your first album that you listened from Frank's discography? Was it the Great Wazoo? That's actually one of my favorites as well.
I think the first one was the quite popular Hot Rats.
Hot Rats, yeah.
Hot Rats.
Yeah.
And the album I'm most affectionate about is probably Weasel's Rip My Flesh, which is pretty... it's hard to describe it in words also. Borrowing from himself, who said that speaking about music, it's like dancing about architecture.
Yeah, it's true. He was right.
So you'd have to listen to it.
Yeah.
So maybe you can also propose a track from that record, but it's really... I advise anyone to listen to it, because it's one of his finest work.
How about Joe's Garage? That's not a classic.
Yeah. It's good, like all of his albums. So he also has more than 100. So they're all good, and you will never end listening to his stuff, especially consider the complexity of it. Mm-hmm. You will also stick just to one and keep listening to it.
Yep, I see.
Forever.
Yeah, in a nutshell, that's how I felt as well. When I started listening to Zappa, I couldn't just stop, and I kept on going for months and months with the same record. I remember listening on a heavy loop, on a heavy rotation, The Great Wazoo. That record blew my mind, especially that question. That was my favorite track of it. And also, what do you think about Dweezil, his son? Does he actually stand up to his father's reputation?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I really cannot tell anything more about it, because really it's... you should just listen to it.
Yeah, okay, cool. Now, for the last question, I would like to ask you, do you actually regard the non-mainstream, niche-based rock music as part of the future music industry? Acts such as Einstürze der Neubauten and Blixerbagelt and more non-mainstream artists, maybe even Kirin can be considered non-mainstream, of course. Do you think they have a solid reputation to go with and future successes in the music industry in the years to come? This is a tough
think
question.
that they already achieved success.
Yes, indeed.
And especially if we measure it in the intensity of the following, they have very almost they have almost a cult-like following. So
yeah,
and if I were if I were to choose, I would always go for that kind of following rather than the more popular but also more superficial following that the artists with big numbers have.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that there will always be public for it. It will never be as numerous as the marketed music, but it's it will still fill all the venues and the clubs. So that's what matters in the end.
Yeah.
Also
that's correct. That's correct. Please go ahead. Did you have something to add?
Well, I think that it was pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Bonus last question. What do you think about David Bowie? Hero, extravagant, eccentric. What was he actually? All of these and more?
I mean, I don't think that there's any artist that came after him that wasn't influenced by him. So it really defined what followed.
Yeah.
It's anyone from also I mean from the more niche that also became mainstream, 9 Inch Nails to the pop artists. Everyone is inspired by him. It's his characters. He's one of the first who invented this who made this made music really theatrical, and he started impersonating characters. And this also was followed by Madonna, Lady Gaga, and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, he basically we owe to him half of the music that came after him. So I don't think there's more to say about him.
Yeah. Well, that was actually very, very interesting. But while we are at Trent Reznor, did you actually regard him as your most important musical figure to look up to at one point in time?
He was very influential during my teenage years, and he still maintained a very high degree of integrity throughout his career. Now he's a really successful film score composer. He won an Oscar this year, I think, with the Pixar movie. I don't remember how it's called. It was great. It was about a jazz pianist, and he won an Oscar. He has 2 Oscars now for music score. So I'm really happy that he's still. He didn't get old, and I still look up to him
just as much as
a reference, quality reference.
He's doing very well at his age. You know, he has reached a commanding age that he's doing quite well at it. And but since you're a bassist, I really wanted to ask you this additional question as well. What do you think of Jaco Pastorius? If you remember, you know, when we're still at students, I told you on more than one occasion that I have big plans for the night. I'm going to listen to Jaco. You know.
Yeah. No, unlike also because I don't consider myself a bass player, but unlike bass players, he never made an influence on me. It's just a matter of taste. He and his band Weather Reports just were not
Weather Report. Rotation. Yeah. You don't like jazz at all, do you? Actually, it's not your cup of tea, musically speaking.
No, I like some forms of it. Those that lean. I mean, some rock. well, everything that leans towards the free form of improvisation. So and there's some jazz, a lot of jazz that could be classified as that. So I like parts of it, but
not all of it.
It's not my main interest.
Yeah, but he was good. He was good, right? Very good.
Yeah, of course,
yeah. Yeah, he was a true legend. Well, thank you very much, Luca, for being able to record an interview with us at Radio USV here in Suceava in Romania.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you. It was my utmost pleasure as well. And thank you for everything that you did for me and for your musical influences. And I wish you all the best in your career as a musician and as an architect. And I'm looking forward to the day where we'll see each other again and meet and talk about the scientific feng shui guy as well. You know, a great friend of ours. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, man, and keep up the good work and all the best and much health. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.